Achieving profound cognitive clarity and mental stillness after 60 is not a matter of chance, but a result of deliberate internal cultivation. Many assume cognitive decline is inevitable, battling it with complex supplements or pharmaceuticals while ignoring the foundational energy drains on their plate. The approach favored by Heng suggests that true longevity begins with subtraction, not just addition. This journey maps the path to cognitive resilience by mastering the simple yet profound choice of what fuels the mind and what depletes it, focusing on specific vegetable energies. The Shaolin lens on nutrition and cognitive aging, a philosophy articulated by Heng, approaches cognitive health not as a separate goal, but as an outcome of total systemic harmony. In this view, the mind and body are not two entities, but a single, interconnected system. What affects the digestive tract inevitably affects the clarity of thought. Longevity, particularly cognitive longevity after 60, depends entirely on reducing the body's overall burden. This burden is not just physical work, but the internal work of managing inflammation, processing toxins, and stabilizing energy. When the body is burdened, the mind becomes cloudy, and the path to stillness is blocked. This perspective shifts the focus from calories and vitamins to the energetic quality of food. Food is viewed as information, or qi. Some foods provide clean, efficient energy that supports the body's functions without creating disruptive noise. Other foods, even if nutrient-dense by Western standards, introduce static, inflammation, or digestive complexity. This static is the enemy of cognitive clarity. Heng Yi's perspective emphasizes that the primary goal of eating, especially in later life, is to create a state of internal quiet. This quiet allows the body's innate healing and maintenance mechanisms, including those in the brain, to function optimally. It is a philosophy of subtraction, purity, and efficiency. The mechanism by which this noise affects the brain is often inflammation. Foods that are difficult to digest, highly processed, or constitutionally aggravating can create low-grade systemic inflammation. This inflammation is not localized. It is carried by the bloodstream throughout the body, including across the blood-brain barrier. In the brain, this state is known as neuroinflammation, which is a key driver of cognitive decline, brain fog, and neurodegenerative diseases. By choosing foods that are simple, pure, and easily assimilated, the individual actively reduces the inflammatory load, thereby protecting the brain. Consider an individual in their 60s who feels persistent mental fatigue. They follow conventional advice, eating salads and using various sauces. From a Shaolin perspective, this person might be consuming draining foods without realizing it. The raw vegetables may be too cold, taxing their digestive fire. The sauces may be filled with processed oils and sugars, creating inflammation. Following the path Heng illuminates, the individual switches to simple, steamed vegetables and clean proteins. The mental fog begins to lift, not because something was added, but because the source of the internal disruption was removed. This approach has limitations when viewed through a purely Western nutritional lens. It does not prioritize the maximization of specific antioxidants or vitamins. A food like a raw bell pepper, high in vitamin C, might be discouraged if it is deemed cold or inflammatory for that person. The focus is always on the net effect on the individual's total energy and internal stillness, not on a spreadsheet of nutrients. It demands a level of self-awareness that modern nutritional science often overlooks, requiring the person to feel the subtle effects of their food. The integration of this philosophy requires discipline, which Heng identifies as a cornerstone of mental clarity. The discipline is not about restriction for its own sake, but about making a conscious choice to protect one's internal environment. It is the understanding that a compromised gut is a compromised mind. The energy spent digesting difficult foods is energy stolen from cognitive processes, from meditation, and from deep thought. This disciplined selection is the first practice of mindfulness. Recognizing the connection between diet and mental state is a critical step toward sustained wellness. The path to cognitive vitality, therefore, begins with purifying the inputs. Before one can build, one must stop the drain. This means identifying the foods that, while common, may be creating the very cognitive static one wishes to escape. The body must be a clear vessel, and this clarity is achieved by mastering the simple, daily choice of what to consume. It is a profound shift from seeking a magic bullet to cultivating a stable foundation. This foundation is built upon foods that support stillness, not just stimulation. But what specific foods build this foundation of clarity? What mental fog have I accepted as normal? The clarity builders, 4 pillars of brain-feeding vegetation, when the goal is to create a stable, clear, and efficient internal environment. The choice of vegetables becomes paramount. From the perspective Heng represents, the brain-feeding vegetables are those that provide maximum energetic value with minimal digestive burden. These are the stabilizers. The first pillar consists of dark leafy greens, such as spinach, chard, and kale. These are valued not just for their minerals, but for their ability to provide grounding energy. However, they're almost always consumed cooked, such as lightly steamed or wilted, to make them easy to assimilate and to remove their cold raw energy. The second pillar is cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. These foods are recognized for their profound supportive properties. They provide substance and complex carbohydrates that offer slow-release energy, preventing the blood sugar spikes and crashes that contribute to brain fog. When cooked until tender, they're a core component of a stabilizing meal, offering sustenance that supports long periods of mental focus. Their dense structure provides a satisfying, grounding quality that calms the nervous system, rather than stimulating it. The third pillar is root vegetables, particularly sweet potatoes, carrots, and parsnips. These vegetables are deeply grounding, drawing their energy from the earth. They offer a clean, sweet flavor that satisfies the body's need for carbohydrates without the inflammatory spike of processed grains or simple sugars. Their energy is slow, stable, and supportive. In the Shaolin tradition, stable blood sugar is synonymous with a stable mind. These roots provide the foundation for that stability, supporting the spleen and stomach, which in this philosophy are central to creating usable energy from food. The final pillar is less of vegetable and more of fungus, but critical in this context: medicinal mushrooms like lion's mane and shiitake. These are revered for their unique properties that directly support the nervous system and brain. Lion's mane, in particular, is studied for its ability to support nerve growth factor, which is essential for neuroplasticity and cognitive maintenance. Shiitake mushrooms support the immune system. From Heng Yi's perspective, these foods do more than just stabilize. They actively help to clear the mud from the mental pathways, enhancing clarity and resilience. The mechanism behind these choices is simple: digestibility and low inflammation. Cooked greens provide magnesium and folate, crucial for methylation cycles that manage neurotransmitter production and reduce homocysteine, a risk factor for cognitive decline. Cruciferous vegetables, when cooked, release compounds that support the liver's detoxification pathways, reducing the toxic load that can impair brain function. Root vegetables provide fiber and complex carbs that feed a healthy gut microbiome, which in turn communicates with the brain via the vagus nerve, calming the entire system. An applied scenario involves a person over 60 who is accustomed to snacking on fruits or processed bars for energy. They experience peaks of energy followed by deep troughs of mental fatigue. They transition to eating a small bowl of steamed sweet potato or a broccoli soup as a snack. The change is profound. The energy is not a spike, but a stable baseline. They find they can work or meditate for hours without the distraction of hunger or the fog of a sugar crash. This sustained mental endurance is the goal. There's a counterexample to this approach. Many modern health advocates promote raw superfood smoothies, blending massive quantities of raw kale, spinach, and fruits. From the perspective Heng Yi represents, this is a digestive disaster. It is an ice-cold, fiber-intensive burden that extinguishes the digestive fire. While rich in vitamins, the energy required to process this raw, cold mixture is believed to create a net energy loss, leaving the person feeling cold, bloated, and mentally drained, even if they are technically nourished. Heng Yi's path would suggest that these foods are not superfoods in their raw state. They're stabilizers when prepared with care. The discipline is in the preparation. It is the act of cooking these foods gently that transforms them from a potential burden into a source of clean, immediate energy. This energy doesn't just fuel the muscles, it fuels the mind, allowing for sustained periods of clear, calm, and focused awareness. This foundation of stable energy is essential, but it is only half the equation. If these foods build clarity, which common foods actively dismantle it, do I prioritize foods that stabilize or foods that stimulate? The cognitive drainers. Recognizing the first three energy thieves the path to cognitive clarity, especially after 60, is often defined more by what is removed than by what is added. The draining elements are those that create static, inflammation, and energy diversion, even if they are marketed as healthy. The first and most significant energy thief is processed vegetable products. This category includes canned vegetables, veggie chips, or straws, and most jarred sauces. These items masquerade as health foods, but their nature has been fundamentally altered. The high-heat processing, inflammatory seed oils, and high sodium or sugar content create a massive inflammatory burden. The core insight, aligned with Heng Yi's philosophy, is that the most damaging foods are those that require the body to fight. The body must fight the preservatives, the oxidized fats, and the chemical residues. This fight diverts massive amounts of energy. Canned vegetables, stripped of their vitality, qi, and often sitting in a solution of salt or preservatives, tax the kidneys and circulatory system. This systemic stress directly impacts the brain. The vegetable chip is perhaps the greatest drain, combining inflammatory omega-6 oils, high heat processing, and acrylamides, all of which are directly neurotoxic. The second cognitive drainer is high-starch or high-sugar vegetables when consumed improperly or in excess. This category is often misunderstood and includes corn, white potatoes, and even peas. While whole foods, their high glycemic load can be a significant problem. When eaten in large quantities or in processed forms like corn syrup, corn chips, or instant mashed potatoes, they cause rapid spikes in blood glucose. This spike is inevitably followed by an insulin surge and a blood sugar crash, which is experienced in the brain as fog, irritability, and an inability to focus. The third drainer is a subtle one: inflammatory nightshades. This family includes tomatoes, bell peppers, eggplant, and goji berries. While celebrated in many cuisines for their flavor, they contain glycoalkaloids like solanine. For a significant portion of the population, especially those with underlying sensitivities, these compounds can be inflammatory. They may aggravate arthritis or, more subtly, contribute to intestinal permeability, leaky gut. This allows inflammatory particles to enter the bloodstream, triggering the very neuroinflammation that clouds the mind. The mechanism of the nightshade drain is immunological. For a sensitive individual, the body perceives these glycoalkaloids as a mild threat, mounting a low-grade immune response. This chronic activation of the immune system is a profound energy drain. It keeps the body in a state of alert, which is antithetical to the state of calm stillness required for mental clarity. Removing them, even temporarily, can reveal a level of mental quiet that the person did not realize was possible. Consider an individual trying to be healthy who snacks on veggie straws and uses a jarred tomato sauce on whole wheat pasta. They suffer from persistent joint pain and mental fatigue, which they attribute to aging. Removing just these two items, replacing the snack with steamed carrots and the sauce with a simple olive oil and herb dressing, alleviates both symptoms within weeks. The removal of the processed oils and the nightshade noise allowed their system to quiet down. This does not mean nightshades are universally harmful. For an individual with a robust digestive system and no sensitivity, tomatoes offer lycopene and peppers offer vitamin C. However, from the disciplined perspective of seeking absolute mental clarity and minimizing all potential inflammation after 60, they're often the first to be tested for removal. Heng Yi's approach is one of radical self-awareness. The discipline is to test, observe, and choose the path of least resistance, the path that creates the quietest internal state. This disciplined approach suggests that what is commonly accepted as healthy may still be a barrier to optimal function. What healthy food might I be defending that drains me? The subtle saboteurs, the final three draining influences beyond the obvious processed foods and potential nightshade sensitivities, three other subtle drains often go unnoticed. The fourth major cognitive drainer is vegetables prepared in damaged or inflammatory oils. This is perhaps the most common drain in the modern world. Even healthy vegetables like broccoli or spinach can be rendered inflammatory when stir-fried in soybean, corn, cottonseed, or generic vegetable oil. These oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are pro-inflammatory when they vastly outnumber omega-3s. The mechanism of this damage is oxidative stress. These polyunsaturated oils are chemically unstable and oxidize rapidly when heated. They create lipid peroxides and free radicals that damage cellular membranes throughout the body, including neurons. This cellular damage accelerates cognitive aging. A person may eat a large healthy vegetable stir-fry at a restaurant, not realizing they're consuming a massive dose of oxidized fats. This creates a heavy oxidative load that the brain must then manage, diverting resources from higher cognitive functions. The fifth drainer, often grouped with vegetables, is improperly prepared legumes. This includes beans, lentils, and especially soy. While a staple protein for many, legumes contain anti-nutrients like lectins and phytic acid. These compounds can be difficult to digest, causing gas, bloating, and, in sensitive individuals, microscopic damage to the gut lining. From the perspective Heng Yi represents, the energy cost of digesting these foods is simply too high. The body must expend significant vitality to break them down, energy that is then unavailable for mental clarity or physical practice. The Shaolin path would favor food that are ready to use, demanding minimal digestive effort. While thorough soaking, sprouting, and cooking can neutralize some anti-nutrients in legumes, the philosophy often leans towards simpler, more efficient energy sources. For the individual over 60 seeking maximal energy, the digestive burden of a heavy bean-based meal can lead directly to post-meal lethargy and brain fog, a clear sign of energy diversion. It is a state of doing, digesting, rather than being, thinking clearly. The sixth and final drainer is one that directly contradicts much Western health advice: raw or cold vegetables. This includes large raw salads, iced smoothies, and chilled juices. From the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, which influences Shaolin philosophy, the digestive system is a fire or a cauldron that must be kept warm to function. Consuming cold foods and drinks effectively extinguishes this digestive fire. The body must then expend a massive amount of its own energy, qi, just to heat the food to body temperature before digestion can even begin. This internal energy expenditure is seen as a profound drain on the body's core vitality. An individual in their late 60s who forces down a large, raw kale smoothie every morning, believing it is the peak of health, may constantly feel cold, bloated, and mentally slow. They are, in this view, overwhelming their system. Switching to a warm bowl of congee, rice porridge, or a simple soup of steamed broccoli would, from this perspective, immediately restore their internal warmth and mental energy, as the food is already prepared and easy to assimilate. This concept of digestive efficiency is central to the path Heng Yi illuminates. The goal is internal harmony. Damaged oils, complex legumes, and cold foods create internal conflict. They force the body to fight inflammation, battle anti-nutrients, or generate heat. This internal conflict is a profound energy drain that manifests directly as cognitive fog. The disciplined individual, therefore, chooses warm, simple, cooked foods to preserve their vital energy for the mind. Knowing what to eat and what to avoid is one part. How does one integrate this into a sustainable life? Where do I choose convenience over energetic purity? Integrating the path. Sustaining cognitive vitality after 60, the final step is the integration of this knowledge into a sustainable daily practice. This is not a rigid diet, but a framework for self-mastery. The journey to cognitive vitality after 60, as illuminated by the principles Heng represents, is one of awareness and simplification. It involves recognizing the two categories of foods, the stabilizers that build clarity and the drains that create noise. The practice is to consciously and consistently shift the balance toward the stabilizers. The four pillars of brain-feeding vegetation: cooked dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, grounding root vegetables, and supportive mushrooms provide the stable, clean energy required for a calm mind. The six draining influences: processed vegetable products, high-starch/sugar vegetables, inflammatory nightshades, foods cooked in damaged oils, hard-to-digest legumes, and cold or raw foods, are the primary sources of static. Mastering this path means gradually reducing the drains while increasing the stabilizers, observing the effect on one's own mental state. This approach resolves the initial hook. Cognitive clarity is indeed a matter of deliberate cultivation. The brain fog that so many accept as a normal part of aging is, in this view, the direct result of a system overburdened by dietary noise and inflammatory inputs. When these disruptive inputs are mindfully removed, clarity is not something that needs to be found. It is the natural state that reemerges. The quantitative promise of a resilient path is fulfilled not by adding more, but by subtracting what is unnecessary. The integration into life after 60 is one of profound empowerment. It shifts the locus of control from external supplements to internal choices. An applied scenario is the individual who, instead of seeking a new supplement, simply learns to steam broccoli perfectly. Or the person who, instead of buying a complex sauce, learns to use simple, high-quality olive oil and herbs. These small, disciplined acts of simplification have a cumulative, powerful effect on the internal environment. This path, anchored in the philosophy Heng teaches, is ultimately about attunement. The goal is to become so attuned to the body that the individual can feel the subtle, energetic effects of each food. They no longer need a list. They can feel which food creates stillness and which creates disruption. This self-awareness, this mastery of the internal state, is the true meaning of longevity. The disciplined mind begins with the disciplined plate. By simplifying what enters the body, the individual creates the space required for the mind to become still, strong, and clear. What one simple change will I commit to for clarity?